Here's some brutally honest advice I wish I could go back and give myself when I started flying 20 years ago, and I'm really confident that this can help you too. First off, if you want to become a pilot or own your own airplane one day, that's totally doable and you absolutely should do it. But it's important to remember that no one is going to do it for you. No one's going to do the hard work for you. When I got my commercial license a few years ago, I feel like I was stuck in this rut of kind of waiting for it to happen to me. Like I was waiting for the right season to come around, and we just had kids and I was like tired, and I'm still tired. We got a 2 and 3 year old. But I just kept telling my wife, like, I really need to get my commercial because I want to become a CFI, but I need to get my commercial. I need to get it. And she's like, dude, are you just going to do it? Like you have to just do it. You keep talking about it, but it's not just going to happen. Like, let's carve out the time, let's carve out the evenings, let's carve out the weekends, and like get it done. And I think just taking ownership of that is really, really helpful instead of just looking out there and be like, oh, that's cool that other people did it. I wish that would happen to me. Like, okay, you have to buckle up and no one's gonna make this happen except for you. But something really problematic can happen in this process, which is my next point. So a big pitfall that a lot of people fall into, myself included, is that they'll take it upon themselves to say, cool, I wanna get started, I wanna go for it, become a pilot, and then they will get stuck in research mode. And this is where progress and momentum go to die, because we'll get stuck in saying, well, what's the best headset? I don't know, I'm gonna read all these reviews, I'm gonna watch some more videos, and then the night's over. And then the next day it's like, well, I'm gonna follow up on the headset. Oh, by the way, what's the best online ground school? What's the best flight school? What airplane should I really be training in? All those are good questions, but the amount of time we can accidentally spend on it is phenomenal. It's like phenomenally bad, right? And the problem is that we think we're researching and furthering our goal, but really we're just procrastinating, because it's a lot more comfortable to just procrastinate under the guise of progress rather than to actually do something. So I think we really, really have to err on the side of action rather than contemplation. Like research is good. I'm not saying just like fire from the hip, but like you can take it too far, and I often take it too far. And so one helpful thing with this is just to set boundaries on your amount of research. So like if you're trying to figure out, okay, what online ground school do I want or whatever, people get stuck in weeks and months like doing this because they just can't come to decisions. So say I'm setting a timer for 1 hour. I'm limiting my research to 1 hour because that's really all it needs, quite honestly. And at the end of the hour, I'm buying one and I'm starting my study tonight. Whatever you can do to err on the side of action, move from contemplation to action, you're gonna be better off for it. Next, once you do start taking flying lessons, I have to warn you, Charlie, that you are going to walk into the flight school and you're going to feel this profound feeling that you're the only one in the room that doesn't have everything put together. And it's going to make you feel like an outsider. It's gonna make you feel like you don't have what it takes to get this done, whether it's your commercial, your instrument, whatever. But it's so important to remember that one, this is a lie. Like, everyone else doesn't have it together. But just as important, number two, is that everyone else is thinking the exact same thing you are. They're looking at you saying, that guy has it all together. Look at his flight bag, look at his cool aviators, whatever. Like, oh, maybe I should get some of those. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Like everyone is looking at each other thinking that everyone else has it together except for them. And it's all a big lie. It's stupid. But like, let's challenge the thought here. Let's say that truly you're the only one in the room that doesn't have it all together and doesn't know all their stuff. Okay, well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna quit over it? Like, that's not a viable alternative. Like, so now what? And I think you just have to get over it and say like, okay, well, I've got some work to do. One of my absolute favorite quotes from Alex Hormozy goes like this. He says, you're not good yet because you're unwilling to be bad. So when you start out, tell yourself, I want this so badly that I'm willing to be bad at it in order to become good at it. And I'm just not good at it yet. And this will really help you be less self-conscious and push through this feeling. Now, when you do decide to get your pilot's license or get your instrument rating, commercial, whatever else, it is really important to dedicate a focused season to it. If you try to tackle this over the course of a year or 2 years or something, not like the whole thing, but like just your private or just your instrument, like you will most likely quit. And it would be much better to go all in for like 6 months. And the only way to make time for something is to not accidentally spend that time on lesser things. So Charlie, if you say, well, man, I don't really feel like I have time to study right now and get my commercial. Okay, well, ask yourself the question, really, how much time did I spend watching Netflix last week? Like, really, answer the question, because we all only have 24 hours in the day and we are spending it, like you have to spend it on something. It's being spent every day. So really evaluate, what is it being spent on? And this will help you really protect your time to make room for your flying pursuits. And as you dive into your training, you're probably going to feel overwhelmed by how much there is to learn. This is totally normal, but there is a shock factor and it can be jarring to learn all the material and retain all of it. But One of my very favorite instructors told me that aviation is a new language and you just have to become fluent in it. And that totally changed my perspective on learning all this material, because it's really not that any one concept is that difficult. Like, some things are harder than others, but generally speaking, it's the volume of material that makes it really hard. And so I finally just decided to just build something for myself that I could use over and over and over for the next 20 years to really try to help with fluency. So for over a year, I've been working on a really robust set of study flashcards for private pilots, and I'm almost finished with them. It's like been one of the hardest things I've ever done. But there are 350 in the set, and it covers pretty much everything in the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, the regulations like the Federal Aviation Regulations, and then the AIM, the Aeronautical Information Manual. And just so much effort went into this. But if you'd like to learn more about them for your own studying, I put a page together over at airplaneacademy.com/waitlist. And there you can sign up for a free waitlist, get notified when they launch if you'd like to learn more. And you also get early access. But if you want, like, feel free to pause this video, go check it out, come back and finish the video. I would love to tell you more about them. More than anything, I hope it can help you, because I've just felt this pain point of like, there is just so much to know, and all this info is spread out in textbooks and courses and everything. I just needed something in front of me that could last the test of time and I could use over and over. And I would just love to share that with you as well. So hope you'll check it out over at airplaneacademy.com/waitlist, and maybe it can help you in your studying. Once you're in your training, the middle is the hardest part. When you start off, it's gonna be new and exciting, and that newness and excitement will propel you. And even though it can be overwhelming, like, you're still fresh and you feel okay. But there is a middle part coming where that newness has worn off, you're starting to get tired, and the end is like nowhere in sight. And this middle is, again, where progress goes to die. The research phase is where progress goes to die. The middle is also where progress goes to die. And I can say this from experience, because I really quit my commercial training twice in the middle. I quit right in the freaking middle of it. It's just embarrassing. But it happens. And so I've become really passionate about this, of like, expect the middle, because that's where you're probably going to quit. And then once you're flying, it's really, really important to know, Charlie, that statistically, the biggest risk to you in the cockpit is you. I'll say that again. The biggest hazard to you is you. And I know this because I did a whole separate video talking about accident rates in general aviation, and it basically boils down to the fact that the vast majority of accidents are due to either pilot error or pilot decision making. So if you want to watch my whole video on that, I'll put a link down in the description. It's pretty eye-opening. And in my experience, safety slips in small stages, and that's kind of become an accidental, no pun intended, mantra for me here on the channel, because it's totally how it's played out. Like, of the times that I have found myself in a situation I didn't like in the cockpit, number one, it's usually been my fault. And two, it's been the summation of a bunch of smaller things that have happened that aren't that dangerous or problematic in and of themselves, but when you add them all up, it adds up to a bad situation. And so you're not gonna be presented with like, it's night, thunderstorms in the mountain, and I'm over gross weight and out of fuel, like, do you go fly? Absolutely not. How it's going to present itself in real life is this. It's gonna be late in the day, but you're saying like, oh, I can still make it there before sunset. And then there's a bigger headwind than you anticipated. So then you're lower on fuel because of that, but then you think you can still make it. Then the weather starts deteriorating a little bit, but it's still within your personal minimums. But then by the time you get there, it's dark, you're low on fuel, and the weather has dropped below your minimums. It's basically gonna be boiling the frog one step at a time until you're in a bad situation. So be on the lookout for those little bad decisions and temptations to keep pushing it. And if you feel that, like, find a way to stop the snowball. Do something different, go around, come back and land later. Land now, stay the night, cancel the trip altogether, slow down, exit the pattern, come back, whatever you have to do to stop the snowball. Just remember that safety slips in small stages. And speaking of safety, looking back, those first few hundred hours of flight time can be a particularly risky time. And I look back on that period now, I've got about 1,100 hours now, and I kind of think like, man, really didn't know what I was doing back then. So there wasn't like a magical checkpoint, like right at 500 hours is when I feel like I knew what I was doing. But certainly, like, you can make the argument that those first few hundred hours when you really don't have much real world experience, but you do have your license, like, looking back, that can be kind of a particularly risky time. Did I say that wrong? Particularly risky time. And so, like, my feedback to myself, my encouragement here would be like, don't get to 100 hours and then just fly twice a year to get your 3 takeoffs and 3 landings in or whatever. Like, when you get your license or 100 hours or whatever, like, in retrospect, I wish that I would have taken that as like, okay, this is my checkpoint to start accelerating my training. And it's hard to do because when you get your private, you're probably kind of tired from training. You've been doing all the lessons, you've been doing all the tests, you got through your check ride, and you're like, Okay, I just want to pause. But in retrospect, I wish that I'd been like, cool, I got it. I'm going to get my instrument, and then I'm going to get my commercial. Like, get a mentor, buy a plane, do whatever you have to do to try to amass hundreds of hours first to get through that like earlier riskier period. And I really like the advice that I hear from a lot of people. It says like getting your license is actually a license to learn. And that's cute and that's cool, but like what does that actually mean? And I've thought about it, and what I think it means is like once you get your license, that's when you need to go hard in the paint of getting additional training and getting additional exposure and getting more mentorship and doing more flying. Don't take your check ride and then coast because you're tired of training. Like, do the opposite. And so speaking of learning, whether you're an aspiring pilot, student pilot, you've been licensed for a long time, whatever, I do think that a great way to continue your learning is to continually work on your ground school material, because we all get rusty on this stuff. And that's what I've been working on the last year, putting all these flashcards together, because I really just want to have this stuff like down pat. I really do. And so I put a whole video together on the screen right now that just shares more info about how these flashcards could maybe help you, even if it encourages you to make your own flashcards. So hope you'll take a minute to check out that video. More than anything, I hope it helps you in your flying journey.